Morning, Instagram. How are you? It is Monday, Moon Day, and the moon is in Taurus. It's going to be conjunct Uranus, squaring Saturn and Mars. So it's quite an active day for a Monday. And I really wanted to come on here and talk about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. So, we're going to be talking about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Yay! This is exact April 12th, but we're already in this energy. You know, I wanted to make this video a while ago, but here it is. And enjoy. If you can only pop in for a minute or two, definitely check back to either my IG Live or my YouTube, or if you're on my mailing list, I will be sending this out. So this is happening in exactitude on April 12th. But it's really been happening throughout March, and we're in it right now. Hi. And it's going to be continuing to happen. So until pretty much, I mean, depending on, some astrologers really do tight conjunctions. I think if it's within 8 degrees, 10 degrees even sometimes, it's still working together. And so we have this happening until Jupiter moves out of Pisces in early May, and knowing that it's going to revisit. So whatever we're being shown now is going to revisit in the fall. And then basically Jupiter will retrograde back into Pisces for, I think it's November, December, and then December 23rd is when finally we reach that full graduation into the full Jupiter and Aries energy, which is a very crazy energy that we're going to be feeling this summer and then obviously into 2023. But let me just kind of talk about in general for everyone what this might look like, feel like, be rich for, and then also kind of what to avoid. So one of the main things that I want to make sure I say is that I have a whole Jupiter and Pisces video that goes through each one of the houses in pretty good detail. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll post it to my stories today. Hi, if you're just joining. So definitely check that video out, because Jupiter and Pisces is a longer transit that we've been through since December of 2020. What year are we in? I think it was 2021. No, yes, the end of 2021. And now throughout, we've been in this Jupiter and Pisces energy. And Jupiter is flying through Pisces. So we're getting these activations. And if you're not noticing really deep dreams, meditations, activations, like some deeper spiritual truths coming through, take some time in your life. We have to make the space to be receptive to this energy. If we're just going through our lives, then of course we're not going to feel those activations coming in. We have to make the space to receive. So this is why one of the most powerful things that came through for me was offering crown codes, which if you're not already on my mailing list, definitely get on there, because early registration goes till tomorrow. I'll be talking more about it in my newsletter. But the crown codes is this activation of your spiritual truth in your work in the world. And really what the main card for everyone for this transit was unique gifts. And so I really want to make that really clear, that a huge activation around our own unique gifts, owning them, standing in them, understanding that any of the challenges that we've gone through in our lives are initiations. And each one of those initiations is a jewel that we wear on our crown. And it is so important for us to own that without holding on to the self-deprivating energy of being in victimhood or saviorism. And that is the shadow side of Pisces. So very interesting to look at and understand. But right now we are being activated in a big way around our unique gifts. So if you're interested in working with me for 6 weeks throughout this transit, I have a really powerful opportunity for you to step bigger into your work and really shine brighter and be in your magnetic self around your soul's journey and owning your gifts. That's what I have to say about that. But overall, also for everyone, we want to be aware of the shadow side, which is addiction, which is like really tuning out and not being in that place to be receptive to the spiritual truths that are wanting to come through. So filling in those spaces with Netflix. I've been guilty of this more than ever this winter. And so, really taking the time and space to get back to, and I was doing this last night, just going to bed super early, but I'm not really sleeping. I'm laying there and processing and being open to the energy that's wanting to come through. So for me, a lot of my inner work looks like me resting, but it's really making that space for receiving. So, hello, Loki, how are you? If you're just joining, we're talking about Jupiter conjunct Neptune and Pisces. I'm curious if you live near the ocean, if you've noticed. So I definitely noticed when I went out to the ocean with my kids and we actually had a little scare. Mama Ocean was not messing around. If you've noticed, if you live near the ocean, because I know Loki does, so I want to ask, if you've noticed the ocean being higher in this last week, really. So let me know if that's something you notice. Now, Neptune is the god of the seas. Hey, is the god of the seas. And so when we have this activation from the god or goddess of the seas, what does the ocean represent? What does Neptune represent? What does Pisces represent? It represents our deeper consciousness. It represents our connection to source. It represents our intuition, messages that are not from a logical place, that aren't A, B, and C equals whatever. It's like really the visions, the activations that are more of a spiritual nature and therefore can be kind of like a riddle that we're not meant to know at that time. Like it's just a slow unfolding. And so this is why our dreams are so important during this time. Our intuition is so important. And making the space to receive at this time is probably the most important thing. Now, the things we want to be aware of is we can have this over-optimism around other people. And it's not to say that we shouldn't have an optimism around people, but if we're acting from that place without, I'm noticing that. Okay, I wanted to ask you, so thank you for letting me know. So the ocean is very active right now, so be careful if you're swimming. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so it's okay to be optimistic about people, but if we're trusting people in a way that maybe isn't aligned with how we typically are, this can also go into like taking chances or taking risks right now, or gambling, or investing your money into something. Really just doing it from a place, if you really feel called in your soul, yes, do it. But if it's just like a whim thing where you just go without really checking in and without really asking yourself what the truth is of the situation, a lot of people can find themselves in karmic situations at this time, playing out old dynamics or playing out old energies if you're not tuning into soul and what soul needs and what your spiritual truth is at this time. So really tune into what is coming through for you from a truth place, from a soul place, versus wanting something to be true, wanting something to be easier than it is, wanting something to be what you've dreamed of, right? So we're closing out a cycle from 2009, and we are opening up a new cycle that will continue into 2035. With that being said, making the space for your intuition, making the space for your meditation, for your dreams to open up to you, because this is a really powerful cycle that won't close and open back up again until 2035. So it's cool. The time period that we are in, we are building to a full moon at the time of this conjunction. And so really looking back to your intentions that you set around the new moon and just amplifying, feeling in your body, using your imagination, using your intuition to really be in a place where you're calling in your big desires. Now, you want to know where this is happening in your house system. So as I said, I have a whole Jupiter through the houses in Pisces video that you can check out. But really quickly, I'm just going to go through each one of the houses. And if you don't already know where Pisces is in your chart, we're looking at 22 degrees of Pisces. So it's really important to have that understanding of that last 10 degrees of Pisces in your chart, because not only is it getting activated now, but it will again get activated in the fall. But of course, this is the most important one for seed sowing and setting intention. So, and again, that's why I'm hosting the course that I'm doing, Crown Codes, at this time, to be in this activation together as a group. There's power in that, right? So some of the themes that we talked about are intuition, trusting yourself, really using your imagination. Compassion is another huge piece of this. And with compassion, being in an energy, if you can help another, or if you can help other people at this time, definitely do it. Just don't do it at the cost of yourself or something that you need, because there can be this overgiving. Some people, right, really get stuck in overgiving. Some people really get stuck in undergiving, and we need to have that balance, right? That just makes sense. So this time is a good time to really look at that giving and receiving, and if you're in balance with that. This is also a time of purification and clearing out old energies that may have kind of been in place from 2009 time period. So we're closing out that 2009 cycle and we're starting a new one. Looking at your truest sacred intentions, not from an egoic place, not from a, not from a place of what culture has told you that you should want, but from a place of what you truly want, right? This is a gestation period that we're in, so we want to make sure we have a proper environment for that to grow and come into fruition. So if we're just wanting something, but we're not taking any steps to create that good environment for that to take place, then we don't really want it. There's something that's holding us back from actually really wanting it. This is a unity consciousness, so it's activating how we're all connected. That's why it's such a powerful time for meditation. Being aware of, again, that too much of anything in our life, right, is not good. We want to have that balance. So if we're overusing a substance, it could be coffee, it could be marijuana, it could be drinking, just really checking in with ourselves about what needs to change, what habits need to change, where we can make a subtle change in our lives. And it could be as simple as just drinking more water, since this is very water with Pisces, Neptune, and then Jupiter. It's very water focused. So we want to make sure that we're tuning into our inner waters, drinking enough water, but also taking care of our inner water system. So making sure we're getting exercise, making sure that we are clearing out toxins from our body. This is a great time for a gentle cleanse or a gentle detox. Because Neptune also at its shadow side can be kind of toxic water. So it's the whole thing of that emotion has the word motion in it, but if the feelings aren't moving, they become toxic. And I talked about this in the podcast that I did recently. If you haven't listened to that, it's really good. The woman who hosts it holds amazing space and brings in so much knowledge and understanding, and it just really creates this amazing environment for us all to learn. I learned from re-listening to it. So that link's in my profile if you want to check it out. It's a great time to pay attention to that, of our inner waters. Okay. And remembering why we came here and what we came here to do. And this is so much of the work that I offer. So if you've been interested in working with me, definitely reach out. I have that group program, the Crown Codes, coming up, and early registration goes till tomorrow. And I also have one-on-one space to start mid-April for one-on-one coaching. So if you're interested in just diving into this work at this time, I highly recommend it. Okay, I'm going to go through each one of the houses really quickly. And if anybody has any questions, you can pop them into the chat, or if you just see this playback, you can pop them into the comments and I will circle back. And let's see. So first house, if you have this conjunction happening in your first house, which again, it will happen April 12th to be on the exact. So pay attention to what's happening at that date, but also kind of just now. And then it will also re-happen again without that being such a close degree, but still it's going to be happening in November, December. So if you have this happening in your first house, 22 degrees of Pisces is in your first house, you're really activating that inner medicine woman, medicine man. You are naturally Pisces in the first house. Like, let's be real. That is a natural inclination to the magic of life, the natural inclination towards a clear intuition and channel. I'm going to sneeze, so hold on. Hey! I might sneeze one more time. I think I'm okay. Okay, so that medicine man, that medicine woman activation is coming through. So definitely make the space, like I said, to receive that. This is also a time to restore your health. It's oftentimes the most magical people that have dealt with health issues, because we have to create that clear channel for things to come through. And sometimes what looks like a problem is actually just an upgrade that's wanting to happen, or a strengthening that's wanting to happen, so that you can bring in more of the magic. So really paying attention to restoring your health, taking good care of your physical body at this time. If you have this happening in your second house, there's this natural energy with the second house when you're in good communication with it, that it's just naturally kind of hedonistic. It's just the Taurus energy, the second house. And so you're supposed to be tapping into your playfulness, your presence around your senses and what you're receiving. You might even notice at this time extrasensory things coming online that maybe have been dormant or that you weren't aware of. And so it's just bringing that awareness to those heightened sensory abilities. And then this is also time to cultivate more of your abilities and your creativity, using your hands, using your senses for something. So whatever that is, this is a good time to do that. If you have this conjunction happening in your third house, so 22-ish degrees of Pisces is happening in your third house, this is a time of purification. So purification of your words, you're speaking, like what truths or mistruths you're speaking to, what energy you're coming from. If you're coming from really past energy, that needs to clear out. If you're also just thinking about the future, that needs to clear out, and it's just coming into present time. Releasing story and coming into more of your resiliency. This is a great placement for the crown codes, which I'm offering. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Fourth house, if this is happening in your fourth house, this is coming back home. This is coming back home to your most sacred intentions when you came into being, your foundation, who you truly are, what is truth for you. This is coming back home to your heart and your heart center and who you really are at the foundation. So this is a huge time for you. Take the time and space that you need and get support, get mentorship wherever you need it, because this is a powerful time. Okay, the fifth house is creating the set and setting for you to create. So fifth house is the house of creations. This is an activation of your power and really coming into your power as a creator more. So again, paying attention to your surroundings, creating that place where you can create, making the space to listen and to receive so that you can create from that place. So this is a great placement for journaling, tracking. I mean, everyone right now, I would recommend journaling, meditation too, but especially if you have this happening in your fifth house. There can be a lot of threads or ideas that you have, but it's really about like just picking one and kind of like pulling and seeing what's there and really creating at this time. Sixth house, if you have this happening in your sixth house, this is really creating the proper environment. So it takes it a step further from the fifth house to really paying attention to your daily habits, your daily health, where you're forgetting to tend to your sacredness around your abilities. Like if you're just kind of noticing that you're just wanting to check out more, this is a time to re-establish those healthy habits and routines. This is also kind of just a gestation period around something big is coming, and it's the preparation. You're in the preparation for it. So it might not look like anything's happening. So that means you're supposed to be in the energy of preparation because something big is coming. Okay, seventh house. This is really, the seventh house in general is about partnership, and this is about unity consciousness in partnership. There can be this, I don't want to use the word delusion around partnership, but yeah, either a lot of projections go onto your partner, or you you see the best in your partner, but you're not really able to understand what they're really able to offer you. It's like a disconnect of what you see as their highest self, but on the physical, on the 3D, they're not really able to give to you what you need. And so this is an opportunity to reestablish some of those boundaries, some of those understanding of what you truly need in partnership. This is about, we're only here for a short time, and we really need to be in partnership that is both giving and receiving in a way. So entering a new paradigm around how you look at relationships, what you actually need. Maybe you've been conditioned to believe that you need a certain type of partnership, but for you personally, like, the reason why something works is that it's not traditional, or it's not exactly what everybody's telling you how it should be or what you should get from your partner. So really being honest and true about, of course I'm on a group text right now. Bing, bing, bing. Like, what the heck? So partnership, yeah. And then 8th house, this is about coming back to your compassion, especially with self, because when we're in a place where we're not compassionate with self, we're not going to be compassionate with others, right? So if you have this transit happening in your 8th house, the end degrees of Pisces, 22 degrees and on, are in your 8th house. This is really about releasing. So what was coming through was the sweetness of milk. Like, the first substance that we have as little babies, hopefully, is our mama's milk. But then there's also artificial sweetness, right? And so this 8th house, if you're having this transit in your 8th house, it's really about understanding like false compassion, or like when there's this false sense of love, or this false sense, it's like this artificially sweet. And kind of, you've always probably had that ability to kind of see through when people are artificially sweet, but also recognizing when you're being artificially sweet to yourself. So it's about kind of coming back to those early childhood memories, or those early babyhood places, and reestablishing true, authentic compassion. Maybe you didn't receive what you needed during those years. And in order to really come into a full picture of compassion, you have to go back and give that inner child or inner baby part of yourself the true thing that they needed. They needed that sweetness of life. And so giving it to them. Okay. And this is a lot of the work that we do together. So if that speaks to you, reach out, because this is a big work. 9th house. If you have this happening in your 9th house, this is a big challenge. You're being challenged in a way. The 9th house is Jupiter's house. It's really expanding. It's the expansive house. So of course, when Jupiter is hitting up this 9th house with Neptune is the god of the seas. Talk about expansion. It's like, I often say with Neptune, it's that there's nothing wrong with our ego, but the place in our chart, the 12th house, Neptune's house, is about dissolving. It's dissolving everything back to source energy. It's the coming home. It's how we are here on this earth in the 3D to kind of separate from source, and then to hopefully come back, come back to it. But, you know, some of us have different things in our chart that bring that coming home a little bit quicker. Or if you have 12th house stellium, like I do, it's like you kind of don't ever forget that coming away. And this can also be Neptune in the 9th house. So the fact that Neptune is transiting your 9th house conjunct Jupiter is this huge expansion. And when you're being challenged, it's for your growth. It's for your expansion. Oftentimes, right, we'll feel closed in when it's time for us to break through something and open to a bigger version of something. So this is also, with this 9th house transit, is about meeting the challenge without being attached to any results, which can be really tricky. I'm just going to be honest. It can be really tricky, right? Meeting a challenge without knowing where it's taking us. It's kind of like playing a game without knowing if you're going to win, or being detached from the end result. It's honoring the game for the game, the playing for the playing. And this is really the energy of the 9th house and this transit. So play hard, work hard, but also make space to receive. 10th house, this can be another place in the chart where we can disconnect from what we really need to do at this time. So I think I don't remember what house I said that with, but this is another place that it's a good time to work together or work with somebody that you feel like can help you, because there can be this, it's such a kind of big activation that there can be this energy of just totally wanting to tune out from it and totally devaluing who you are and your intuition and your natural inclinations that you're getting at this time. But it's so important for you to not do that. So there's this energy of maybe feeling like too much, or feeling like your energy's too big, or you need to tone it down or temper it down to be successful in work. And it's actually the opposite. So it's really about owning and being in a balanced place around rebalancing the giving versus the receiving. So with this placement, if you're feeling that way, you're going to be in this energy of over giving or over delivering without knowing that you're kind of trying to compensate for feeling like you can't be accepted, or you're too much. So you give too much. Does that make sense? So this is a time to rebalance that, call it back. I have a whole program called Bitches Shine Brighter, and this is kind of the energy that it's about. So if you're interested in that, let me know. 11th house, finishing up projects. So if you have Pisces in the 11th house and you're having this transit happening here, you might have a lot of open tabs, so to speak. And this is a time period for you to dive fully into one of those open tabs. Close the rest. Just pick one, trust one, and dive into it. This is a time for you to recenter yourself and be aware of being too receptive to the community, being too receptive to the world. Now, when I talk about being receptive, I'm talking about being receptive to source energy, to spirit. And oftentimes, one of the things that can get in the way of that is the volume being too high set to what's happening in the world or the suffering of the world. And if you have this placement, your volume's up really high. You really hear what people need. You really hear what the world needs. But oftentimes, if we're in tune to that suffering, it's activating our own inner suffering, and we're not able to move forward on any of those open tabs. So we have to turn the volume down to the suffering of the world, and we have to turn the volume up to what the world we want to create, the things we want to see, and come from that energy. And that takes a lot of willpower. That takes a lot of, it can look like, and oftentimes we will say like, you're selfish for not tuning into the suffering of the world. And I've heard that a lot in the last few years since I've really turned that volume down. But that's okay. People can think what they want, but ultimately the reason is clear. If you're tuning into the suffering of the world, you're internally tuning into that suffering. So in order to create something beautiful, we have to be in the energy of beautifulness. We have to be in the energy of creating that and making more of that for others. So this is a time period for you to turn that volume down of the suffering of the world, turn the volume up to what Source wants you to do in the limited time that we really have here. And the 12th house is the natural placement of Neptune. So hello, you've just been getting activated probably for the last few years with Neptune in the 12th house. This can be a really confusing energy if you don't understand riddles, or you don't understand how spirit can come at you in a backwards kind of way. Now with Jupiter here, Jupiter is a faster transit. So with Jupiter here, conjuncting Neptune in your 12th house, it will bring that expansion to understanding more, to kind of being able to process some of the things that you've been getting probably for the last few years. So this is a remembering time. This is a time for you to recall and kind of bring things back together. Like Neptune in the 12th house is just like, it's like all over the place. It's dispersed. It's a dispersed energy. And it's that maybe other people in your life can see what's happening for you, but you can't really see it or put it together. It's like a puzzle. But with, thankfully, Jupiter here, it's bringing that understanding, that kind of more of a mental energy to it to sort through and put things in order. This is a great placement for having someone outside of yourself to check in with and talk with, and having a mentor, having a teacher at this time could be really helpful, obviously making sure that they're aligned. There is this energy for everyone with this transit of really not seeing, like not thinking that things could be too good to be true. Like there is this like, make sure that you're not working with someone or tuning into someone because you think that they have figured it out and that there can be like all this wonderful thing without having that balance with the lessons, the growth, the pain. That is a part of the human experience. So making your choices knowing that you have to be in your body, you have to be in the full embodiment, and that comes with all the things that are natural to the human experience. It doesn't mean that we can't have a beautiful experience. It doesn't mean that we can't create wonderful, meaningful things. And it doesn't mean, for sure, it doesn't mean that there's not magic and magical opportunities. It's just to say, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. I love you all. I hope you have a beautiful transit with this. Let me know in the comments when you see this posted, if this resonated with you or what questions you have, and I hope to see you there. So take good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.